All right, everyone, Wednesday, the 30th of July, and I've got a bit of a cold, but that doesn't matter. We're going to batter on with the latest Celtic news. Lots of chat for you today. Just starting with a few results from last night. Celtic B were in action. It was our second Lowland League match of the season. Opened up with a win at the weekend against Broxburn Athletic. Last night's game was a 3-3 draw away to Civil Service Strollers. And yeah, strange one in that obviously 6 goals scored and all of them arrived after half-time. There was 2 goals in there from Thomas Hatton, or Tam as he's known to his teammates, and one from Emmanuel Obadiwe as well for Celtic. So 4 points from a possible 6 to start the Lowland League season for Stephen McManus's team. And just another story that broke yesterday. This is a pretty niche story, but it does kind of affect Celtic. The SFA did announce yesterday that from next season, the Lowland League is going to be split into 2. So you're going to have a Lowland League East and a Lowland League West. So you're going to have those 2 plus the Highland League making up that tier 5 of Scottish football rather than just the 2 leagues at the moment. I think it just works a bit better with the football geography of Scotland because there's obviously far more teams in the Lowland League than the Highland League, and they can just split things up a little bit better. So, as I say, pretty niche story, but if Celtic are part of the Lowland League next year, we'll be in the Lowland League West. So, a small difference for the team next year. There we go, weird place for the intro sting. But anyway, we'll move forward. Also wanted to tell you about the Champions League. There were 5 games happened last night. So Kazakh side, Kairat, they knocked out Cups. They'd be good to play Rangers, actually. No, wait, that's no Cups. We also had Dinamo Kyiv, who knocked out Hamrun Spartans. Slovan Bratislava beat Zrinjski, Copenhagen beat Drita, and Cervena Zvezda beat Lincoln Red Imps. So officially now we can rule out a few more teams who we definitely can't face in the Champions League playoff round. So we already knew Copenhagen and Cervena Zvezda. It was impossible to play them. Also their opponents in the next round, so Malmo and Luis Palma's Lech Poznan are no longer possible opponents for Celtic in Monday's playoff draw. So if you were dreaming of Celtic versus Luis Palma and all of the drama and intrigue that would have gone with that match can no longer happen. So yeah, there's 7 more ties to be sorted out tonight in the Champions route for the champions. And yeah, we'll have a full list of potential opponents at that stage. Last night's results do now mean for certain 100% both Basel and Sturm Graz will be unseeded in Monday's draw. So those 2 teams are definite potential opponents for Celtic. It's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? Definite potential. You know what I mean? Yeah, as I say, things will be sorted tomorrow. We'll have a confirmed list, we can chat about it. But just at the moment, I think we're down basically to 10 teams, potentially, we could play in the unseeded route. Some tough ones in there, but I also think you've got to back Celtic, even with all of the transfer stuff. That don't worry, we're not going into the opinion stuff of yesterday, although I enjoyed all your feedback, both agreeing and disagreeing with me. That's what we're here for. But yeah, we'll have a full list of teams this time tomorrow, and I'll go in depth on that in tomorrow's video. Right, news-wise, and a number of different things to cover today. First of all, being reported in the Austrian media that Celtic are not allowing Marco Tilio to leave the club and move to Rapid Vienna until we have signed another winger. So Rapid Vienna can expect to get Tilio on about September the 1st. There was a mention in the Austrian article that I looked at that Rapid might actually look at alternatives for that position. So if they do that, fair enough. I do still reckon Tilio's going to move on, but you totally understand Brendan Rodgers not wanting to lose one of the 4 remaining wingers that we have, and it doesn't necessarily say that Marco Tilio is in our plans or anything like that, but yeah, I'm not even going to do that. I was going to give you an example where someone gets an injury and we end up with Marco Tilio in Champions League playoff tie, but Is it manifesting, people call that? So I'm not going to do that, even though I've just done that. You get the point, like, we're pretty light on wingers, and Brendan Rodgers obviously doesn't want to lose Tilio at this stage. So yeah, Tilio dies in James Forrest and Yang. Just an update on Yang. Mark Henry was reporting that Norwich City will no longer be pursuing a deal for Yang. Legia Warsaw still said to be keen on him. Brendan Rodgers has said that, as much as he understands maybe Yang being a little bit unsettled, not being a regular a couple of years into his time at Celtic, but he still feels that Yang can be an effective contributor for us, especially when you get better players around him. So, yeah, I've covered this quite a lot, so I won't go in depth, but I think Yang will stay, and to be honest, I hope Yang stays. I think Yang can offer us something this season. He's just not a starter at this point. In terms of incomings, there's no real update on Jakob Breum, the go-ahead Eagles player. Just some interesting quotes in the Dutch media from the Eagles general manager, Jan Willem van Dop, who I should really get on at this stage because he's getting a mention every day at this rate. But he, and actually I mentioned this yesterday, but he was speaking on the Dutch TV sports show De Oosterboon, and basically gave an interesting insight, I felt, into why Go Ahead Eagles are looking for like a fee of like €7 million for Breum, when I think their record sale in their entire history to this point is 4 million. So on this show, Van Dop said, I probably shouldn't compare, but we actually wanted Ruben van Bommel, and that didn't happen. We were a close second. In the end, we went for Jakob Breum a day later. I compare those players because why is it normal for Ruben van Bommel to go to PSV for 15 million? Jakob Breum is listed on the transfer market for 5 million and Ruben van Bommel for 8. And I believe, having watched it, that the transfer market he's talking about is actually the website transfermarkt.com or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm not sure he should really be bringing up those kind of figures for like serious stuff. But anyway, the story here is that Go Ahead Eagles have they've seen Ruben van Bommel leave AZ Alkmaar to go to PSV Eindhoven for 15 million. They don't think there's a huge gap between Van Bommel and Breum. Guess they're probably kind of right, and therefore they think, right, well, if Alkmaar, who are a bigger club and get bigger fees generally than Go Ahead Eagles, but if they're able to get that, then why don't we try and push up our figures? I just think it's more evidence of like transfer fees just rising year on year. Like Jakob Breum playing for Go Ahead Eagles 5 years ago would be a player that would probably cost us £3 million, and it would just be like a kind of a good but middle of the road signing. We're now looking at like double that, but that's just the kind of, I guess it's inflation in the transfer window, but we are also getting bigger fees for some of our players. So I'm going to just repeat what I've said, I think, in every video to do with Breum. If we want him, pay the money, Celtic. Oh, actually, one last wee note on Breum, because I've been watching quite a lot of him. He's been described as a winger, I think, in like the Scottish media. He's not a winger. Like, he's a central player. I think he's played on the wing on occasion, more on the left though than the right. But like watching clips of him and reading scouting reports, he's a number 10, a central player. So if we are interested in him, and we clearly are because we bid 3 times, what does that say about our midfield? Because I would look at our midfield, and we've obviously got McGregor, Nygren, Engels, Hatate, Bernardo, McCowan. That was impressive. That looks like the best area of the squad at the moment. 6 players, 6 pretty good players who are all vying for 3 places. So why would we need Breum as well? Is it because Rail Hatate might be leaving? Don't say that, Hamish. But yeah, interesting one. Maybe the club think they can turn him into a winger, but I kind of doubt that as well. So yeah, you know what I mean about things just not quite adding up with Celtic this summer. It just feels like the priorities are slightly wrong. Just in terms of some other names that you may or may not have forgotten about, and I wouldn't blame you. Michel-Ange Balikwisha, again, I was scouring the Belgian media earlier, and there's like no articles about him over the past 48 or 72 hours. So things appear to have gone pretty cold there. I don't know, I could be wrong here. Maybe Celtic will finally realise they want to sign him, but as I said a few weeks ago, I feel this is a deal that would have been done by now. So I don't reckon Balikwisha is going to be a goer. I think he was more of a left winger, but in terms of the right winger stuff, that would probably be the most concerning thing for me right now. Like, right wing is the position, with the most urgent need, the biggest priority we have right now, because like we've lost Nicholas Kuhn, and yeah, like James Forrest is great. Like, I'm never going to talk down James Forrest. I love him, but the reality is we've lost Nicholas Kuhn, who was a starter for us for the majority of last season, Scottish Cup final, in the last game of last season. He's left now, and apart from like that Isaac Janssen stuff right after Kuhn left, and then he promptly signed for Nice, not really been much. I know Breum's been mentioned, but as I've just said, he's more of a central player. So where's the right wingers, Celtic? Just a little bit of an update, if there is such a thing, on Luis Munteanu, the Cluj Romanian striker. I was reading Romanian media, they're talking a lot about him. It's like a big talking point in Romania. Munteanu leaving Cluj. Again, this quite simply appears to be a case of Cluj wanting a fee for Munteanu. I think it's about 15 million, which is a lot. And Celtic bidding, I think we bid just shy of 7 million, was it 6.9 million a couple of weeks ago? So there's a pretty big disparity between those two. So kind of similar story to Breum. Difference here would be, I mean, 6 million for me for Breum not to go back to him. I think that's a fair price these days, and Celtic should just pay it if they want him, and they clearly do. Munteanu, like 15 million is a bit on the steep side. I think if we could get that down to 11 or 12 million, I would definitely be pulling the trigger on that one and bringing him in, because his goal scoring record is really impressive, and I just think a signing like that would just be an immediate game changer for our attack. Imagine just having like a big quality goal scoring striker there. Suddenly that position would look excellent. So again, my message here is, if Celtic want him, Cluj are not being completely ridiculous with the fee, go and get it done. Does seem like there's a lot of interest in him though, especially from France. So we'll wait and see on that one. Another update is just on Jahmai Simpson-Pusey, the Manchester City defender. Simon Bajcetic, who's chief Manchester City writer for the Manchester Evening News, a lot of Manchester in there, he says that we are ahead of a number of championship clubs in our bid for Simpson-Pusey. Said basically that Simpson-Pusey, or what was I calling him the other day, JSP, was earmarked for a loan away from Manchester City even like before the end of last season. Basically, he has outgrown the Premier League 2 and academy football. He needs to be playing first team football. Seems like there's a lot of interest down south in him. But yeah, like it in terms of like the loan itself, it doesn't appear like it will be a particularly hard one for us to get done. Obviously depends who's in for him down south. There may be like Premier League clubs, which is obviously difficult for us to compete with. But like, he wants to play football. He said that publicly. He wants to play first team football. We can offer him the opportunity of that. Man City aren't against letting him go either. We clearly have some sort of interest in him because we're in conversation, and we have a good relationship with Manchester City going back a number of years. So I do think this is a deal Celtic can get done. Thinking about like the possible purchase clause that we're all hoping for in this deal, the more I think about it, the more unrealistic I think it will be. Like Man City, even their youth players who leave them for a lot of money. They regularly get 15, 20 million pounds for like players who have never even really played for the first team, and Simpson-Pusey's obviously played a couple of games. So yeah, I just feel that if there was a purchase fee to be agreed, it would be far too high, more than we'd be prepared to pay, and City would get that money from someone down south. So I reckon if this deal happens, it will just be a season-long loan. And yeah, while it's not ideal, I do think he's a player who could come in and improve us as a first team and form a good partnership with Cameron Carter-Vickers. But, you know, we've got Austin Trusty there, and I take the point Austin Trusty's been pretty good in pre-season, and, you know, potentially he's someone who can really come onto a game this season. So, yeah, I reckon that's one Celtic will get done. On a similar-ish note, there's also been a bit of chat about the Liverpool midfielder Stefan Bajcetic. The chat is that he's going to be allowed to leave Liverpool on loan. He had a couple of loan spells away from them last season. So first half of last season at Red Bull Salzburg, second half of last season at Las Palmas. So yeah, he's quite a highly rated midfielder. I think a deeper midfielder, so potentially in that Callum McGregor role. A lot of chat online about Celtic potentially being interested. I have not seen like a reliable source for this at all. It appears to me just to be like one of these transfer rumours that kind of originate from someone daft just tweeting something, and it kind of gets picked up suddenly to the point that like the media are talking about it because people are talking about it online, and then suddenly, it's kind of just this cycle that starts to make it a rumour. And I've not seen... There was one a few years ago, was it like Nuno Borges from Manchester City? And there was so much chat about that. And I don't think there was ever anything to that. And certainly I noticed Mark Hendry last night, who's a pretty reliable source when it comes to like proven or disproven rumours. He says that there's been no interest or no discussions between Celtic and Liverpool on Bajcetic. So don't reckon this is one that's going to happen. But yeah, that's where we're at. Still, you won't be shocked to hear needing a centre-back, a right winger, a left winger, and a striker. The Scottish transfer window shuts on Monday, the 1st of September, so the day after we go to Ibrox. It's actually closing at 7 p.m. Celtic Park time this year, which is obviously a good few hours earlier than normal, which I think kind of makes sense. I mean, why should people stay up all night just to do transfers? So 7 p.m. The other deadline that we have is to have players registered for the Champions League playoff, and that is Thursday the 14th of August at 11 p.m. Celtic Park time. However, we do also have the opportunity to register 2 new players up until the night before the first leg at 11 p.m. So we've got like right up until that first leg basically to register 2 players. But if we want to register more than that, at least one of them will have to be done by Thursday the 14th of August, which is 2 weeks tomorrow. So yep, time is ticking down, everyone. And time is ticking down to the new season as well. We had the officials for Sunday's game against St Mirren confirmed yesterday. Referee is Don Robertson. He'll be assisted by David Room and Craig Ferguson. VAR is Greg Aitken, and assistant VAR Graham Leslie. Okay, going to head off. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everyone. I'll return tomorrow.